Hi guys, so today we're going to be looking at an additional part to ways that you can organize data. Univariate data is a box and whisker plot. So a box and whisker plot looks like what you see up top. It basically shows you some highlights of your data, but it doesn't show you all the individual values. It doesn't show you the mean, it doesn't show you the mode. So from a box and whisker plot, you cannot determine the mean, you cannot determine the mode. What it shows you is this line that's in the box here is representing the median. So by looking at this, you could tell that the median was 12. And what it does is it takes your data and it breaks it up into 4 sections. So 25% of your data is here, 25% of people are here, 25% of people are here, and 25% of people are here. So even though the sections some look bigger and some look smaller, it's not because there's more people in that section, it's because the data is more spread out. So it tells you about the spread of the data, of your numbers. So when a box is very small, like you see here, that just means that, so if this represented, say, 100 people, 25 people scored between, I'm going to call it a score, 5 and 8.5. 25 people scored between 8.5 and 12. 25 people scored between 12 and 14, and 25 people scored between 14 and 20 if it represented 100 people. So the fact that this box is very small just means that those 25 people all had scores that were really close together. The spread was low between 12 and 14, whereas in the upper section here, it's spread out. So these 25 people, their scores varied a lot. They were very different. They were between 14 and 20. They were more spread out. That's what that's showing you. And by dividing the data into 4 sections, we give a name to this number here at the beginning of the box. Whatever number that is, it's called the first quartile. Or sometimes just write first Q. So that number 8.5 is the first quartile, quartile 1. And so the first quartile, it's not the lower section. Some people think it's like, because it reminds them of the word quarter. It's not the lower section. It's the number that divides the lowest section from the next 25%. The median that I'm highlighting right now in red, 12, is also known as the second quartile because it divides the bottom 25% of people from the upper 25% of people. And the third number that's dividing over here at the top of the box, which is 14, that represents the third quartile. So your third quartile is 14. And that divides the upper 25% from the rest, the lower 75%. So when you look at a box and whisker plot, again, you can't tell what the mean is, you can't tell what the mode is, you can only tell the mean, the spread of the data, and the quartiles, which divide each 25% section. So here's another example of a box and whisker plot, or 2 of them, Class A and Class B. You could tell Class, well, let's look at certain features. So Class B tells me that the median is 80. Class A, the median is 77. But look at the spread. The spread of data for Class B is huge. The lowest score is 72, and the highest score is 93. Whereas in Class A, the spread is much lower. The lowest score is 70, the highest score is 85. It's not as spread out. And even look at the size of the quartiles. This quartile, 87, and the median is 80. So third quartile here is 87. First quartile is 73. So the middle 50% of people scored between 73 and 87. Whereas here, quartile 1 is at 73, quartile 3 is at 82. The middle 50% scored between 73 and 82. So that's a much closer spread. To measure spread, we use something called interquartile range, which is kind of what I was just describing. It's describing the middle 50% of scores by subtracting the quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So in Class B, my interquartile range, IQR, my interquartile range is 87 minus 73. It's the third quartile minus the first quartile. Third quartile is 87, and first quartile is 73. And if I subtract those, instead of doing like the old range that you guys did in last year in 7th grade where you subtract the highest minus the lowest, this is a more stable way of measuring range because it's the highest minus the lowest in the middle 50%. So it doesn't, it's not influenced by outliers. So if you have a person who got like a 25, you would be using that number if you found the regular range. So your interquartile range here is 14. For class B, for class A, your interquartile range would be 82 minus 73. So quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So 82 minus 73, the spread is going to be much lower. The spread is only 9. Okay. To make a box and whisker plot, what you're going to do is you're going to first figure out, do you have an even number of numbers or an odd number of numbers? So I'm giving you here an example of each. If you have an even number of numbers, what you're going to do is you're going to divide it in half. So in this example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I have 14 numbers. So I'm going to divide them in half. I'm going to split them 7 on one side, 7 on the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the median is going to be the average of the 7th number and the 8th number. The median is going to be right between the 8 and the 9. Be the average of 8 and 9, which is 8.5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lower half of numbers, and I'm going to find that median. So once you find the middle of the lower half, that'll be your first quartile. So since there are 7 numbers, it'll be the 4th number. 1, 2, 3, 4th number, right? Because if you go 4 from each side, that's going to be your first quartile. And then when you go to the upper half, you find the median of the upper half, and that'll be your 3rd quartile. So I'll find the 4th number in this group. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th number there is the 3rd quartile. So you're finding the middle of the lower half and the middle of the upper half. And now you can draw your box and whisker plot. So it's pretty simple. You draw a number line. Now, I can't draw straight lines on this thing, so you want to use a ruler. It's a number line, so you need a scale. So I'm going to count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And what you're going to do is you're going to put a dot on the lowest value, which this one is called the minimum, and the highest value, this one's called the maximum, which I think I forgot to mention up top. So the minimum is 2, the maximum is 17, and you can put a dot over each of the quartiles. So the first quartile is 6, the second quartile, or the median, is 8.5, which is here. The 3rd quartile is 12. And then you're going to make a box from the 1st quartile to the 3rd quartile. So you're going to go like this, use a ruler, and then draw a line through the median. And then you draw whiskers out to the maximum and the minimum. And that's the box and whisker plot. Okay, it's not too bad. Now, if you have an odd number of numbers, things change very, very slightly. So if I have an odd number of numbers, like in example 2, in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers. So here, when I split them in half, I have 11 numbers. I'm going to split them 5 on one side, 5 on the other, and the 6th number will be in the middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5, and then these 5, and the 6th number is the middle number. This is your median. This is your quartile 2. So when you find the first quartile, it'll be the middle of the lower half, not including that median. So you have 5 numbers now, so it'll be the 3rd number. This is your first quartile. And then the 3rd quartile will be the middle of the upper half. This is your 3rd quartile. Okay, and then you just make a number line again. And you're going from 20, so I'll start at 20, all the way to 37. So I'll go by 2s, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38. I'm going to put a dot over my minimum, a dot over my maximum at 37, a dot over the first quartile at 21, a dot over the median at 25, and a dot over the 3rd quartile at 31. Make a box from quartile 1 to quartile 3. Use a ruler, put a line through the median. This is supposed to be going through there, and then draw your whiskers out. That whisker is very, very short. That means that, so if this represented, say, like 20 people, there would be 5 people here, 5 people here, 5 people here, 5 people here. These 5 people in the bottom scored all the scores are really close together. Whereas these 5 people, their values are very spread out. That's what that's showing you. Okay, now finding quartiles from a frequency table. You're going to be asked to look at a frequency table and figure out which interval contains the median, the first quartile, the upper quartile. Let me do this on a new video because it's gonna get too long.